In this episode, we welcome Scott Selzer, CEO of StruXure, and Scott Smith, the CEO of Bromic Heating. And they're joining us today to discuss the evolution, current state, and innovation of building products, specifically outdoor heaters and pergolas. These products, which I would think that we would all agree here, that are appreciated for their design and details by architects, are used in both residential and commercial projects, which we've been talking about in this series leading up to today's conversation. So welcome to Archispeak, Scott and Scott. Great to have you.
Pleasure to be here equally. Thank you both. Welcome, Scott S.
Yeah.
I'll call it Scott Big S, and I'll be Scott Little S.
All right. Well, don't expect us to get this right. I mean, we've already talked about this. This is going to be difficult as it is. You both are Scotts. You both last names both start with S. So we will do our best to just talk about Bromic Scott and StruXure Scott, something like that.
That might be better than Big and Little, I think, yeah.
So as I mentioned in the intro, each of you are the CEO of a building product company. And so I would love it if, and maybe StruXure, Scott, let's talk with you first. Give us an overview of your background and of your company, and let's jump into it.
Sure. Like you said, we're a building products company. My story is a little unique. I actually started as a teacher. From teaching, you have that whole summer. So it was like, hey, summertime, what are you going to do? Well, I was always handy. So I pulled a couple other handy teachers together, and we started a company called Schools Out Construction. So when school is out, we were doing the construction. And
Nice.
we quickly grew that to where, within the next couple summers, we were making more in the summertime than we were all year teaching. So in 2008, had this great idea to going full time with it. Did not see what was going to happen at the end of the year.
Oh, I know that one.
And right at the end of the year is actually when I had a client that had some water issues going on. So I gave him all these different scenarios of different patio covers and roofs and pergolas and all kinds of stuff. And he was like, no, Scott, is there something that can open and close like this to let the sunlight in? Because it's a really wooded area, and my wife, that's where she goes out to sun. But we needed the rain protection as well. Is there something like that? And I said, well, I don't know, but I'll go and Google it. So just like everybody else, I went and I found a like product actually coming out of Australia about 45 years ago now. And so saw an opportunity where there was a couple of companies that were trying to import it into the US, but weren't very successful with it. So I saw a great opportunity to take that, and we made our own, and since the patents had run out in Australia, we were able to get it fully patented here in the U.S. And from there, we started to build a dealer network throughout North America, and quickly grew that. We're in our 13th year, I guess, as a manufacturer company. And 2.5 years ago, we sold to the ASIC building company, which is a publicly traded building products company. They have a bunch of different brands. StruXure is one of them. TimberTech is another big brand of theirs, and they have a couple other very large brands that kind of go under that portfolio. So we've just been, our thing is growth. That's what it's always been about with us, where it's these really cool pergolas and cabanas that open and close with louvers. The really cool thing about it is that it's a frame in the backyard, right? So like designers come into the house, and it's really easy because everything's already set up for you. Here's the kitchen, here's the living room. You go outside, you don't have a kitchen and living room, right? Maybe you have a kitchen, but I need something over it. That's where we come in. But by putting a like our name StruXure, right, spelled with an X, a little bit different. By putting a structure in your backyard, you are making a place to now put all these other products on it. Heaters is one example with Bromic Scott, right? So that's the exciting thing about it is we've kind of set it up, and now it's kind of evolving, right? The product, we have a new product development team that's all they do is come up with new ideas and new products to enhance it. One of our biggest products that we're looking at right now is called StruXure Plus, that we're going to be releasing later this year, hopefully by the middle to end of summer. And it's actually connecting all those things that I was just talking about. So what you have today is a beautiful pergola, our Pergola X product, right? For instance, and it has heaters on it, has screens on it, has lights, fans, all these things. And then you go and look in the drawer, underneath it or wherever they put all the remotes, and you have 15 remotes. And so at StruXure, we're like, I think we can do better. Let's come up with a control and demand system that connects all these devices together. So we're excited about that. Bromic's one of our partners, and we're excited about heat. Obviously, that when you live in different climates where you can get more year-round fun and enjoyment out of your pergola. I always say everybody that we're in the comfort business, and I know Bromic Scott is as well. And so people are only going to stay outside until they are uncomfortable. So if we can keep them comfortable, they're going to stay outside longer.
So let me ask one real quick question before we go on to Bromic Scott. As a husband of a teacher, do you miss teaching?
I miss the kids teaching.
Oh, I know.
Not so much.
I kind of assumed the answer. I was curious because I know teaching well.
Yeah, but it's funny because I'm just teaching.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Adults. I mean, being a CEO, you have a classroom, right? It's all your employees.
It's amazing how quickly that translates to the built environment and working with contractors, working with architects, working with manufacturers like Bromic, to kind of integrate things and realize that, wait, all of my cat herding as a teacher works just as well as in the construction industry.
Right. All right, Scott Smith, it is your turn. Give us a little bit of background of you and your company.
You made it hard. It's a hard act to follow. I mean, I'm going to have to really play on the Australian accent now to make it good. So Bromic Group, it's a group company out of Australia. It's a privately run business, myself and two other partners. The business has been around for 40 plus years. Now, we got into heat. It seems to be that 2008 was a fortuitous time. That's really when we launched Bromic Heating. We'd played around in the outdoor space prior to that with respect to heat, not necessarily in a manufacturing position, but distribution. And we were one of the propagators, at least in the Australian market only, and I'm not necessarily proud of this today, but one of the propagators of those dreaded mushroom heaters, the propane heaters with the top hats, because it was the only product available. Now, the Australian marketplace was, at the time, probably similar to Southern California, and we both know that that's a 365-day-a-year outdoor cultural-based environment where people love outdoor dining all year round and can enjoy it all year round. Sydney very much so was that, and that's where we're head officed. We had played with this mushroom heater. Australia was one of the leaders it had always been an outdoor culture, and was one of the leaders of anti-smoking regulations, which pushed people to the outdoors if they wanted to smoke. And much of the population did, or more of the population back at those times. But it also pushed people generally more into the outdoor space with a want to enjoy it more year round, all year round. Our reference to that was, and we started life in the commercial space, was there has to be a better way. These products are not a great product. They're inefficient. And my background is as an engineer. In looking at it with my partner, Mark, there has to be a better way to do this. These products are, again, not efficient. They can be dangerous. Workplace health and safety is a problem. You're always refilling gas bottles. It's not great in areas if you want to put alcohol, etc. And that's where Bromic Heating was really born. And now when we did it, Australia, we love our home market, but we are restricted in the number of people that we have in that country. And we knew that if we were doing it, it was probably a place to go overseas as well. And North America was always something that was very close to us in terms of our desire and our understanding. And Southern California was somewhere where we wanted to be. And that started our journey. So we started in 2008. We ventured into here in 2010, and our journey's just traveled on from there. And we've witnessed a lot of change. It's been fortuitous for us. But as Scott said, that transition to the outdoor space, and more specifically, we consider ourselves as well in linking very much with the likes of StruXure to be propagators of outdoor comfort. I mean, at the end of the day, people's desires otherwise were, I go outside until it gets cold, I put a blanket over me, and if it's still cold, I go back indoors, which is really not, it removes that comfort aspect. It removes the entertainment, enjoyment that people get from being in the outdoors. And our desire has always been to see people happy, whether that be in a commercial or residential point, allow families, allow colleagues, whoever else it would be, to enjoy the space in the outdoors because it offers so much. So it's then how to do it efficiently, in a really well-designed format. And that's our desire. So that's where it started from. And then from there, it's now a business for us. It's now our largest business between the three group businesses. North America is certainly a large market for us. We operate then in about 24 countries around the world. So we operate through North America, through Canada, through Europe in the continent, obviously through Australia, and then smaller markets for us at this stage, at least anyway, through Japan, India, and then a number of distributors beyond that. That's not to say that we're magnificent. It does talk a lot about what is happening globally in an outdoor space, in terms of what people desire, both professionally and at home. So it's a really fun place to be.
You've already alluded to kind of this evolution that you've seen in heaters between what you're offering now back to the mushroom, but the heaters with the hat, as you called it. And I would assume similarly for pergolas, there's been an evolution over time, and you have this really beautifully designed product. And there's a lot of engineering in that, I'm sure, to make these elements that you both supply to look as simple as they look. I mean, there's a lot going on beneath the surface there. Can you guys both talk about the evolution of the outdoor market, not just your products, but this whole series has just shown the complete flop that we've seen in expectation of users and wanting and desiring outdoor space, comfortable outdoor space, designed outdoor space. And I'm curious, when you guys started these companies, like what was it like then, and how have you watched it evolve over time?
I think, I mean, if you look at it, kind of getting back to your point, I mean, pergolas have been around for thousands and thousands of years. It goes back to ancient times, right? I mean, fire is also one of those things, right? It's just, I think if you kind of compare, what Caesar was sitting under in a pergola to a pergola X that you'd be standing or sitting underneath today with StruXure is technology, right? It's kind of like Henry Ford to a Tesla. That's still had four wheels, but a lot of technology has gone into the cars today, and so that's how I always kind of look at it when you're really talking about the evolution of a product like a pergola.
And productizing a thing like a pergola is really interesting, right? Because I mean, you can, like, it's a kit, I assume, and that you manufacture all these parts, they get shipped to a site that gets assembled on site, but it's like the IKEA version. I'll just put it that simply, right? Where it's like, it's probably flat packed. It shows up, the contractor puts it together. I'm sure there's a lot going on inside those legs and inside those beams, but, I mean, that's really interesting to kind of productize space, right? This is an interesting topic as an architect when you're talking about creating a structure that surrounds an element that sits outside. It could be a kitchen, it could be a living room, it could be, some type of outdoor space. That's an interesting thing to me, to productize something so large. And then you have to be concerned about all the logistics and things like that. With the demand increase that we've seen just in the last 4 years alone, I can assume that you've had some interesting challenges there.
Sure. I mean, supply chain, employees, I mean, all those types of things is when you have a growth company like both of our companies, it's staying in front of it, making sure you have really good people, and really just being on top of it. I mean, in the buildings products, it's up and down all around, but yes, you were right. It's really exploded. I mean, the pre-COVID to the post-COVID world of, hey, I want to go outside and I want to enjoy my space. It has definitely taken it to the next level. When you're talking about just outdoor space, I think what we really want to do is make a special place. So just not a space, but it's a place. That StruXure is where I'm going to go. I'm going to hang out. It's my new man cave, right? I mean, and it only happens when you start to put other products on it. I talked about the first thing that somebody puts on a StruXure is lights. The second is a fan. And the third, it's probably either a heater, depending on where they're at, or sound, or motorized screens on the side. So that's what we're seeing.
You kind of alluded to the pre-COVID, post-COVID. And, we've talked a lot in previous episodes about the shift in, as Evan alluded to earlier, this desire to have exterior space be a designed and, it is an expectation for both residential and commercial for you to have a exterior space. And I'm just wondering, and this is for both, but StruXure, Scott, since you were talking about some of your spaces, I'm wondering how the trend towards outdoor living has changed since the COVID era. And do you see that maintaining? Do you see it kind of like pitching up, down? How do you see the market?
I see it that, the people that want to go out and enjoy their backyard, they're going to do that. People that restaurants or different hospitality environments that want to, make more revenue in their space, they're going to do the outdoor space. I mean, you're starting to see that even in the commercial setting. I mean, designers and architects, used to always be focused on the inside and the room. The rooms are important, but now I'm going to a resort. I want to know, what does the pool look like? What are these cabanas? What's going on, with all that type of stuff. And then I want to be comfortable when I'm outside because I want, if you're going on vacation, just think about it. You don't want to go and stay inside somewhere. You want to be outside. That's just a natural human psychology.
Well, what's interesting is, Evan and I both come from a background of educational architecture, higher education and things like that. And where we even see the desire and the demand for higher level of outdoor spaces, higher level of amenities like outdoor heating and stuff within those spaces, because let's just say we're doing a dorm and you have X amount of opportunities for X amount of different dorms. And, as somebody who's got a kid in college right now, he went and chose the nicest dorm. He went and chose the one that had all the amenities available to it rather than just your typical kind of quad. And it's interesting to see how that evolution has become a demand more than just a nice to have.
Well, Scott Smith, let's talk about the evolution of outdoor heaters. So you mentioned like I said a minute ago, the mushroom heaters, but now we're talking about integrated elements into other things where they're hidden away, they're concealed hardware, concealed piping to get, whether it's electrical or gas or whatever. Talk about what has happened innovation and technology wise with the evolution of outdoor heaters.
I mean, touching on what you were talking about just before, I think the core reference here is it's all driven by the end user, whether they're in a residential setting or a commercial setting. And both the StruXure business and the Bromic business, I think, are driven around one thing, is trying to solve problems to make the customer's life better. Now, we do that through the architectural community. So our reference then is to try and solve problems to make, let's say, your lives easier and architects' lives easier in the way that you integrate a design to make it more usable for an end user. Everything that then we do, and I think that Scott does with StruXure, is then all about how that is integrated, how you get what I will reference it in our ethos around product, which is design, performance, and efficiency, to produce an outcome for you where the user is going to enjoy it more. On a side note that Cormac mentioned there, we just had that very conversation today. And you're driven, I think, or an architect is driven, excuse me for this reference, around the changing nature of the way we live in the built environment, the more condensed way that we live, and the need for people to have more breakout space and more shared space. We do live in a more condensed environment, a more challenging environment. People are more on top of each other, and costs are a real issue, which are bringing us closer together in the way that we live. So every ounce of space becomes important, and it pushes us to those outdoor positions. And it means the creation of those amenities. Our marketing coordinator, one of today, we were talking about multi-res and the application of the outdoor space in it and the need for amenity. And his reference was very much your son's reference, Cormac, and that is, I will choose a position with amenities over another, even if the cost is higher, because I'm going to live in this space and I need it for my health and well-being. So the challenge that you have to design for that, us, and our challenge then is to deliver to you something that offers that design, that performance and efficiency to give people that usage of space. Now, that becomes quite different to ours. Ours, we engage in heat. Heat, by definition, materials around it is always a challenge. They have historically been potentially functional product, but quite ugly product and quite large. So ours is always to maintain an efficiency in the product that we present to market, whilst being able to shrink the platform and integrate. Because our reference to this is, in everything that we do with heat, is that it should provide the comfort to an area in a seamless manner without being an objectionable circumstance in it. It should blend into the environment and create and allow your design or an architect's design to take over for the user and just create an environment that they want to stay in, because that's where the comfort comes from, being warm or cool or shaded in an environment that then comes from Scott's product coupled with ours or other products in an aesthetic area that you've designed to meet the needs of the consumer. So I think it's been forced by the user. It's then forced that onto you. It's forced that onto us. And if we don't keep up, then we don't have a place, really. And our job is to do that. It creates a really great challenge, one that I love.
What I kind of find very interesting is we're forced by the consumer that then forces you, then forces us. And what's interesting about the responses that both of your companies have done is take in aesthetics as a part of that, which, then obviously appeals to us because we would go to you first for a lot of these different solutions because we can get the aesthetic solution as much as the functional solution, as much as the transformational spaces and things like that. We're able to also use, it's just like point out, it's like, okay, you could have the mushroom top, or you could have, like, say, and I'll pitch your product for you right now, the Eclipse and things like that, and how those are integrated into, say, the StruXure's elements. And it provides us an easier selling point when we're trying to sell these types of spaces to our clients, when we can come up with not only a functional space, but also an aesthetic space.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I would also add to that the whole idea of, heat is one of those things where, like, the analogy that I keep thinking of as you were talking about it was, being invisible, is like the music at Disneyland. You don't know where it's coming from, but it makes you feel like you're at Disneyland when you're walking through the aisles, and it blends from even different from one music to another when I go from one land to another. And I just feel a certain way as a visitor, as a guest at Disneyland. And I don't necessarily know why I feel like that. I kind of feel like outdoor space comfort is kind of like that in some ways, where it's not obvious what is making us comfortable or uncomfortable, but thoughtful design, and when that can be implemented in outdoor space, just makes it feel good for a broader range of people for a longer period of time, and they don't even necessarily know why. I think that's a really successful bringing together all these different elements of design. So we're talking about the StruXure device and the louvers, and being able to open and close those and respond to the sun as an example, or the wind as an example. And then these heaters come on, and like all of this stuff, and thinking about technology and automation and the way that you can start to combine these into a really interesting recipe. And these things are just happening without my direct intervention to make those things happen. It's a really interesting evolution that we're seeing happen, and it's playing out extremely well in outdoor space design. It's happening indoors too, right? We have louvers and light sensors and all these different things, and the buildings are becoming way smarter so that we don't have to intervene manually as much. But that's definitely extended to the outdoors, and I think it's pretty fascinating. And as an architect, not knowing that stuff is happening is to my detriment. So having information available, like podcasts like this, for example, just to understand that these things even exist and that these options are out there, is huge, because then when the time is right, like I know where to look, I know where to find the answers for that kind of thing. Are you guys seeing something similar with your clients? Is kind of a loaded, I know your clients are the building industry, design professionals and installers, contractors, but the actual users of the space, are you getting feedback from them that's kind of reinforcing all that? Because going back to the users who are really driving this, are you hearing similar ideas from them?
Yeah, like I was saying before, one of the things where every product comes with a remote control, right? RF frequencies been around forever, right? Yeah. Old technology, why are we doing that? So that's prompted StruXure to come out with this StruXure Plus product, which is a new control and demand system that's using Matter and Thread, right? Which is the next protocol really coming in the future for us over the next 5 to 10 years. You're going to see that huge with the Internet of Things. We are a thing, right? Our StruXure is a thing. So we need to connect, like you were talking about. So just as important as what's the evolution is going on inside, that's also happening outside. And what I kind of alluded, like everything's kind of playing together. I see StruXure Plus as an orchestra, and the user is the conductor, right? So you're able to use it and put it into different scenes. We're using the word scenes but it's more of that. It's more of an experience, because in our product, we can have the lights, the fans going, different things, louvers, open control, turn on heaters, screens can come down. There's all kinds of different things that you can do to make a really unique space for you out there, and to really show it off to your neighbor as well. So I think when we're thinking about end users, yes, I always look at the backyard, but our product is also heavily commercial as well. And that all goes to, hey, I want people to be dry. I want them to be comfortable. And that's what we need. So we're, delivering that on both sides of the equation there.
Yeah, we're all pushed by the user, aren't we? I mean, Scott talks about controls and automation and the implementation of those. That prompts his business and mine to both work together in that realm where we're producing controls that link with his to be able to create this environment. And simplicity is a critical thing. People want absolute control, the ability to dial up, dial down, comfort and heat, sound, lighting, or otherwise. Link that through his system, but have our system integrate. They don't want these multiple points of control. I mean, the consumer really is, and I think I speak for our business, and I'm sure Scott's the same, develop feedback loops for that purpose. You have to listen to the client and the client's needs. And look, that's taken us in many different directions where we wouldn't have thought heat would be applied. Today, as an example, and I'm going to steer away from what is the StruXure position for a moment, it's not the biggest segment of our business by any stretch, but it's a unique one and an interesting one. We do have ended up in an environment just simply through listening to customers where we put quite a reasonable quantity of heat positions into the cruise industry. Now, 10 years ago, we never would have thought that cruises, which ultimately are luxury hotels that just sit on water, that would have significant outdoor environments where they would want to keep people warm, but they do. And when you think about that, it's not them wanting to do it again, it's the consumer wanting to be in that outdoor environment again on a cruise, not locked in a cabin, sitting out there enjoying a Mai Tai or a pina colada on a deck with their favorite people in the world, which is why they're on the cruise in the first place, and enjoy a sunset or enjoy a nightly meal. And it's driven changes to that industry dramatically. I mean, we watch vessels get bigger and bigger, but we watch the features that get included on those vessels become more inclusive and just more about family, friends, and just enjoyment at large. Scott, it might be a place for StruXure as well these days, I think.
Well, actually, we've been both yachts and cruise ships.
Yeah,
we've
indeed.
Had go on.
Interesting.
Yeah. And look, we both do. We both end up on super yachts as well. They're really interesting positions. That's a unique circumstance. We don't necessarily want to talk about that, but it is amazing about where they do go. And even now, listening to consumers, you see them in health aspects now. If I go to heat again, and just that comfort point, because healthcare professionals have seen the benefits in either rehabilitation, aged care, or otherwise of giving people access more to an outdoor environment, more to see the sun, more to enjoy what the outdoors offer. But in order to be able to do it, you have to do it in a comfortable environment. And that again can bring shade, heat and or cooling through fans and or shade. So it is very much consumer driven, and it's changing dramatically over time as to how those outdoors are incorporated into that built-in environment.
It's interesting you say that because, we've noticed a trend more and more with healthcare that they're requiring, not even requesting, because of the consumer. I don't know if consumer is the right word for healthcare, but for more and more outdoor spaces, because they see the health benefits of outdoor spaces, and they see that there's a greater demand, greater need for both emotional as well as emotional comfort. And so they're asking for those spaces. I mean, we're finishing up some projects right now in the Baltimore area where we wouldn't have assumed that on a multi-story building, we would have multiple spaces throughout the height of this building for outdoor spaces, but we have them, and we are integrating things like heat and shading devices and things like that for them to be able to extend that kind of emotional health care out into these spaces.
No, agree wholeheartedly. It just extends, from a physical and both a mental viewpoint. Yes. We are an aging population in any developed area. It brings needs. Yeah. And we all want quality of life and comfort.
let's talk about the current state of the building industry and where your products kind of fit into that. What are the current kind of accepted states of outdoor pergolas and outdoor heating versus maybe where you want to see that go? We've talked a little bit about these innovations and what's possible, but I think the current state probably doesn't match that equally as equally as you would like.
Yeah, I think what both of our companies have done a really good job at is they focused on design. I mean, you started with Scott's story about the mushroom, right? It, heat was ugly, right? And what Bromic has done is they've brought it and they've made it look, nice and sexy. And it's like, I could see that, putting that out on my back porch or deck or wherever.
Totally.
And we've done the same thing at StruXure, right? So, I mean, we have spent millions and millions of dollars on new product development because we want to continue to be cutting edge. When you have a product that moves, that creates, a lot of opportunities, I guess would be the great word for that. But we are huge on design because, I mean, when you go out and you look at it and you look at these pergolas and you're like, well, that's, some European pergola or that's that. And it's like, we want to be unique and different and kind of give what the clients want, both. And you have, like you were saying, different audiences, right? You have high-end residential backyards all the way to, large commercial settings, to rooftops, like you were just talking about, to all different types of, from corporate campuses to healthcare, like you were just talking about. So, yeah, both of our products span all through all those different areas, which is pretty unique.
Yeah, I think. And look, I'll speak for Scott and I both here and hope that he agrees. I don't think, and look, it probably plays back to his reference to being a school teacher as well, and maybe me liking a soapbox, but I don't think we really sell a product. At the end of the day, our reference in terms of engagement and market is really about awareness, and it becomes in an educational position because people aren't. The outdoor position is evolving constantly. I mean, it wasn't, but I'm going to say none of us are that old. And as children, none of the products today referencing around the outdoors could ever have been thought of and existed. All that existed outside was you sit with a few garden chairs around a fire and that was it. And then it gets cold and you go inside. Awareness around the product availability and around what you can now do in the outdoors with product is really the biggest challenge that we've got. I think considering a StruXure pergola or considering Bromic heat in the aftermath of design of an outdoor area is a far more difficult circumstance and a far more expensive circumstance. So it's one, that's really the challenge that we're focused at and engage in is through the design community and then through the customer alike, is creating that awareness of what you can do and what you can achieve in the outdoors. Scott, I think you would agree. And that's really where our business drives at.
Yes.
Yeah, that early engagement has got to be key, right? To your point about getting these elements into design. It's really, really, really hard to add them late in the process. So many decisions are contingent on decisions like these that it makes no sense to try to shoehorn them in at the end, not just from a dollar standpoint, but from infrastructure and planning and layouts, everything. I mean, and so I take your point there. I think that actually goes to a lot of building product manufacturers, right? They should be getting involved a lot earlier. And I mean, that's really on the design team to engage with them. I know a lot of building product manufacturers are ready and willing to engage, and we don't take you all up on that all the time. I mean, we have a million things to worry about. You probably understand that as well, right? So there's a balance a better balance could definitely be achieved there. But I think the first part of it, to your point, Bromic Scott, is that just knowing what's possible is a huge benefit for when the opportunity comes up. I mean, then you can go down that road and engage early to make a better outcome.
Yeah, I mean, commonly we'll end up with clients, whether they be in the design community or the end user, say, referencing at least make facility through power and through structural aspects to facilitate for it later if budget's an issue, or if it's not our product in the design circumstance, we'd far prefer that facilitation is made or an other product is used to get utilization of a space. Because one of the biggest shortcomings or shortfalls is that you end up with an outdoor space that's not used, particularly considering what it can give to an audience.
Right. I've heard a little bit about innovation and technology, Scott Selzer, you talked about IoT. So I can imagine kind of, setting up using my Alexa or my home app. Oh, it just went off in the corner. Right. It's like one of those things where you tell it and all of these things are kind of linked together and it kind of transforms space. Are there other innovations that you're working on at StruXure that you want to let the audience know about?
Yeah, so I mean, the StruXure Plus is going to be really, game changing. I think for the industry because again, it was everybody has a remote, and now it's hey, let's talk to our partners. Let's work with Bromic heaters to integrate that into that StruXure Plus. We have other partners like Sonance and Sonos on the sound side of stuff. We've partnered with Finitex on the screens. So those types of things are all going to where they're just endpoints to the StruXure Plus system, which is kind of cool, and it's all a mesh network. So if you had one gateway, one brain, and I have a 2,000 square foot system that's going all the way down there, a couple thousand feet or whatever, it can all talk to each other and back to it, which is pretty cool. And it makes installation a lot easier, right? Because all the endpoints just need to get power, and so that's huge on that side.
Scott Smith, what about Bromic on the Bromic side with where products are going and what innovations and technology you're employing?
For us, again, it's that design, performance, and efficiency ethos. And it's responding to customer. A lot of our position then beyond what we'll incorporate into a StruXure position, if it is in more a fixed structural circumstance, not a pergola. A lot of the innovation that we need to bring to market there is about integration, and it's integration into cavity or ceiling. Heaters are wonderful things to create comfort. They're not around other materials. So a lot of our design aspect there is about how that couples together, factoring ceiling cavities, ensuring that spaces are minimized, that there's no heat impact on other materials. And we come close to a lot of others. And you would know this, Evan and Cormac, far better than I do, that there are a lot of material changes and a lot of choices out there, whether it be PVC, whether it be fabrics, etc., sheeting and boarding that are used in ceiling now. A lot of our reference has to be on how to design in and to integrate with that. Equally, then it is how to ensure that with everything we do with new product that is coming out, that we get performance in minimum footprint. And if we are running near materials in recess, that is done in a truly integrated fashion in the smaller space, or if we're mounting on surface, that again, that is as close as possible to the surface without creating any impact. Otherwise, I mean, Cormac, you mentioned before the Eclipse, it is how we integrate additional feature into the product that's going to add the experience of the consumer, hence the Eclipse with lighting function. The rest of it's then just listening to consumers and what they need.
I love that you're doing the work for us, like that material research. That's huge. And again, kind of going back to the last round of conversation regarding early engagement. I mean, that you get to prompt me as the architect and ask the question, well, what's the ceiling material? And maybe I don't know yet, but maybe I do. And even if I don't know what it is, you can say, well, here's what to look out for. Because you know more about that world than I will, right? And I don't have the time to do a deep dive into material science and can I mount a heater in or on this thing? How, like what are the tolerances, all of those things. I just get to tap on your shoulder and you will tell me your experience with that because you want your product to have a successful installation, right? I mean, it totally makes sense. And as a design professional, to be able to rely on you as a resource for that, and any building product manufacturer, I would hope, goes to those lengths and can bring up the questions I should be asking as a designer throughout the process. I think that's huge. I also love the Eclipse line because I like the idea of getting a twofer, right? You've got light and heat coming out of the same thing, and we have options to kind of control both. Are you also looking at like technology as far as like controlling and things like that with? What are your options with that?
Our viewpoint is very much similar to Scott's, hence we're not going to create an ecosphere control because we will either or are mapping to couple in with Scott's greater mesh technology because we're a component of what then becomes the outdoor environment, where Scott's the principal mechanism for the outdoor environment. Right. Ours is to couple in, so we will couple with him or under control position couple in with a BMS. or if it's a pre-existing simpler structure, stand in our own right with the same technology, linking into Alexa, linking into Google, or standing alone on an app function, which gives full functionality. Consumers expect it these days, and that's something that we can and need to deliver. But then linking in a more complex environment, it's really Scott's ecosphere or similar to that then becomes the overriding aspect, and we need to be able to work with that. So ours becomes then the protocols that they use.
See, and the great thing about that is that most of the times when we're trying to sell these types of options to our clients, the thing that they're looking for is low maintenance, or take the thinking out of it and look for that turnkey option rather than parts and pieces, or how do things like, oh, okay, I've got a pergola. Now I have to go and add this. I have to add that. I had to add this. And, not only does that drive cost, but it also drives the aesthetic impact as well. And to be able to kind of integrate those is definitely something that's kind of a selling point to architects, because you're now saying that you are able to provide an entire package to them of heating, of lighting, of sound, of all of these things, and you're taking the thinking out of it. You're making it easier to sell to a client, for an architect to sell to a client, that it's something that's far more palatable, and something that in our case, when we're always looking for those, well, what is the next thing for us to value engineer out? You're like, well, we don't want to do this because you have a full integration. Oh yeah, I don't want to do that. Let's keep that. So it gives us something to fight for.
No, I mean, you make a good point. I mean, with Bromic, Scott, like as well with it, where it's, you're taking the technology that's out there, and kind of what's next for us is, I think AI, obviously it's been a big word for a long time now, but I mean, I think over the last couple of years, it's even getting more, but it should just be a smart pergola that opens and closes and does its things, where you don't really have to say much to it. Obviously we're going to be doing voice as well, so you can just talk to it and you can say, turn on my heaters and close my louvers, or hey, change my louvers to 46%, and it goes right to 46% because we know exactly where everything's at. And so it's a really unique operating system. And I from an architect standpoint, like you were just saying, we need to make things easy for you guys. That's our job, right? We want to make it easier for you so you guys can go spec it in to the jobs, and that you're happy with the end result.
So speaking of your target audience, give the listening audience an idea of who your target audience is. I mean, you just talked about making it easy for us, but, and then maybe give some examples of how you're doing that.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the A&D community for us is a consumer of ours, but we always look to the end user as well, right? So we were just talking about all the different aspects of where you can go with that, from residential to commercial, and commercial having all those, I call them buckets, right? All these different categories. And so it's quite overwhelming, like for even just like for a manufacturer, like I'm sure, Bromic Scott would agree with this, is like, we have so many different clients. How do you answer all of their questions, demands, I guess, and do that. And so we've been trying to make a very flexible product that can both be residential and commercial. And there's different things that go with both. And I think that's important to look at as well. I mean, I think the same thing with the heaters, right? I just installed 2 Eclipse on my back porch, right? I mean, like, it looks great here, but it also looks great in a restaurant, right? So, I mean, I think that's important to look at it from a product standpoint.
Yeah, I would agree. Consumers that are in demand or the changing position, I think we have both, whether it be Scott Selzer or myself, had businesses that were evolved or that at least started probably primarily around the hospitality space, whether that be a restaurant or a hotel, and then ventured into the residential, because they were the core aspects of where the outdoors started to evolve and was being used. They're still the cornerstone, I think, of both of our businesses. But what Scott really, I think, was touching on there, and what I agree with, is it's quite very broad, the areas that the product ends up going to now. If I touched on one, which is, I think, close to us now, in a big way in terms of evolution, that really captures how we're changing the way that we live, is the mixed-use multi-residential space, where we're seeing a lot of change. We're certainly seeing it in pockets around the North American market, and this probably then comes to heat more so. Whether that would just be And it runs to the provision of amenity, and whether that would be just in common spaces or now on balconies, we're seeing a lot of change where we have limitations on space, cost envelopes, and what people can afford to build and how they then use that space. I don't think, 5 years ago, and I'm going to step away from pergola and outdoor heat now, I don't think I ever would have seen multi-residential constructions being built with gaming rooms, with work pods, with pet spas, which quite surprises me, but true, with experience-based kitchens. And then very much so, then we're heading to the outdoors, to communal spaces that are for people to gather in, because people now are living that way far more than they ever have, and they will continue to live that way far more into the future. So we're seeing a lot of demand coming to us from that, and probably will bring us demand around product changes. I think over time, it's a really interesting space for us. I think for everybody as that continues to change. Gone are the days, I think, where as a population we can all expect to live in a single family home, as saddening as that is for the future. It is what it is what society's come to, and at the same point in time, it's something we need to be able to adapt to as well. I think that outdoor areas are really critical to that, and I think the design community does as well, hence what's changing for us, and hence what's bringing new challenges to us as well, as to how we then build product for that, whether that be on a balcony or whether that be in a communal area.
What types of resources do each of your companies offer to the design team throughout different phases of design? So I know Scott Smith from the Bromic side, and we've had links to this in some of our episodes, where there's design assist. You guys will help the design team on the architectural side figure a bunch of stuff out. But maybe you can elaborate on that. And then Scott Selzer, I'd love to hear from your side as well.
Very much so. I mean, at the end of the day, what you want is client satisfaction. That's the end user. You want them to be comfortable in the outdoors. And I'm sure Scott will also touch on this far more deeply, but it's to engage from the design position all the way through to the sale and post-sale, to ensure that, beyond the sale, that the installation then goes right. So our aim is to inject ourselves into the process there for the very reason, Evan, that you touched on before, that we're an integrated product around heat, where you've got other materials in the area and limitations. And it's our job to be the expert on that, to help you, because you're dealing with 100 things at once in the design community, whether it be that, whether it be concrete, whether it be steel, whether it be floorboarding, whatever it would be. You cannot be an expert on all materials or the application of every product. So we consider it as our job to help you through that design solution to provide what's right for the consumer. And good design principles say that we'll do that to ensure efficiency and best sustainability for the area as well. Heat where you need to heat, don't heat where you don't need to, and use the right level of heat, and use it when you want it through control. So we want to link with the design audience around that design up front, and then step that through and cost it correctly for the application as well, then ensure that at the installation point, after the specification's been done, we're equally helping the general contractor or the installer as well, to ensure that whole of life application happens. So we'll use that through a design service up front, and then through a tech support service that steps through the sale post. That really is, I think, what a designer should look for and need in a supplier of any material of substance that they're putting into an environment. And I'll let Scott touch on it now, but I'm sure he's probably quite similar.
Yeah, I mean, as a former educator, it's all about education, right? It's educating the A&D community about your product. It is having a support staff there. We're very similar in our companies and how we go about it, and it's probably why we've been successful, right? And so it's at StruXure, we saw a demand on the commercial side. So we have a dealer network, but mostly that was more residential. Some of them did some good commercial, but a lot of them kind of stayed in that residential. And so we saw a big need to do a commercial direct team. And so we have that, and we sell, directly to big commercial contracts all the time. Going through the A&D community, we have lunch and learns and all those types of things set up. And then we have the design inside. So when you're designing a structure, you don't know how long these louvers can be and how big the zones can be and all those types of things. And so that's where really we come in, and we kind of help you design. You give us the space, and we will put everything inside of it for you.
I love the whole idea of outsourcing my valuable time to an expert. That to me is, it shouldn't be a secret, but it kind of is. I mean, this is the kind of thing where architects tend to reinvent the wheel over and over and over on projects, because we're trained to do that. We're trained to start from a blank page, and And it's a lot of times I think we'll just take what we've learned in the past and apply it to the future. But that's not, if we don't even know what's possible, we don't even know that the team exists to do this. I mean, if architects, if you're out there and you're not using the design assist teams from these manufacturers, you're really missing out. This is it feels extravagant when you get to send something over and get back and just respond to it and not have to be the author of it.
When we have a client who says, well, Evan, you're the expert, you tell me what I can do. And it's like, well, no, I'm not the expert. Scott and Scott are the experts. And
it's really hard to say that, though.
But, so what we do is we go to a design assist and we say, okay, I've been tasked to do this. Can I do this? And you say, well, you can, but you might need to do this or this. Or can I integrate heat into this? Well, you can, but you need to think of this and this. And then that actually puts us in a better light when we're saying, go back to the client and say, okay, as the expert, these guys said, as long as we make sure that we're integrated. I mean, in the past decade, Evan's right. I mean, we are always trying to reinvent the wheel, but the wheel's already out there. And why reinvent the wheel? Go to the right people and ask them the right questions. You may not know the right questions, but guess what? The right people know how to answer or ask those questions for you and help you, give educated advice to the client. Because ultimately, Scott, as you're saying, as an educator, we're educating the client, but we need to be educated just as much. And so there's no way around it. It has to be a symbiotic relationship or we do the wrong things.
Well, I want to wrap up, but I want to touch one more subject here, and it came up in the last episode in our series with Thomas Ventura of Gensler, and we were talking about sustainability in outdoor spaces. And I want to touch on sustainability from both of you as product manufacturers, and just I want to hear how you are thinking about sustainability in regards to your products, in regards to the spaces that your products are being installed in. And help us understand what's going on in that realm when it comes to your business.
It's an interesting topic. Look, the first position is from an internal point, and I'm sure Scott's very similar. Again, for our business, we take sustainability seriously. I think as every business should. So our practices internally align with what I think all businesses should be. We use green power. We have for a period of time. In our core premises, that's solar or green sourcing at any point in time. Our practices are then around sustainability and recycling. That extends to product in the way that we package our product and the way that we put it to market, as well as the design around the materials. Now, in saying that can all sound really good and warm and fuzzy. But in the end, I think when they get applied to market, there has historically been a little bit of a tinge around outdoor space and then potentially the application of certain products, whether that be heat or cool, etc., to say that might be a waste. I think that's then again an educational position and an awareness point, because outdoors are very important now to the built environment and how they're used, at least from our belief and perspective from dealing with the likes of yourselves and the A&D audience. And the interesting part there is, on a calculation base, the usage of an outdoor space on an energy footprint position is actually less than an indoor space if it's getting utilized, because you're only heating when you need to heat. It's radiant heat, so it's heating you. It's not heating air. It's not like an internal HVAC system where it has to run all day, every day to cycle the air for a health position, because otherwise it's dirty air, and to keep the air at an even temperature. Lighting is natural light, and cooling is generally natural cooling through natural breeze. And then you have the opportunity to control the environment through what is really principled around Scott's structural environment, where we couple into it. And I think a lot of our reference there is teaching that sustainability position that can occur in the outdoors and the efficiency position that can come with well-designed products and a well-designed area where you shade the area you need to shade, you cool the area you need to heat where people are going to be there, and you have an understanding that if you can utilize it properly, your energy consumption is very little on a volumetric basis. That's the position that we take to it, but then we make it our job to ensure that people are informed. I'd probably leave it there and hand it over to Scott. I think his position is probably fairly close.
Well, I would say also just the square foot price, right, from indoor to outdoor. I mean, putting our structures on and all the gadgets is definitely cheaper than doing inside.
And a lesser material
construction.
And a lesser material position.
Less material.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hitting on the sustainability, our parent company, the ASIC company, publicly traded company, their biggest brands are around plastic, right? So they actually are recyclers. And so they have actually bought up a couple of recyclers. And so they're taking, this bottle, this plastic bottle, and it's kind of they call it a full circle, right? So, and why were they interested in us? Why all this plastic company doing the recycling thing? Why were they interested in an aluminum pergola manufacturer? Well, aluminum's a very green and friendly product. Our products is around 50% recycled material, and then it's 100% recyclable. When the lifetime way down the road, 50 plus years or whenever you want to change it out. So I think it was ASIC company is a true company that actually really does. It's just not like this greenwash type of thing. They put the investment into the recycling of it all, so that it can go into the products. I mean, obviously that once you have recycling product, it's a little bit cheaper to then put that into the product and so forth like that. So they are saving money. So I think from a financial standpoint and from an eco standpoint, they're doing a great job, and we're just glad to be part of that. But obviously being aluminum, there's a lot of aspects that are very similar to plastic.
Great. Well, I have learned a lot today. Definitely picked up some new information here. And so I appreciate both of you taking the time to sit with us and have this conversation. Is there anything else that either one of you want to add to the conversation before we wrap this one up?
I just want to say, thank you to you guys. I mean, obviously the A&D community, being architects, those types of things, that's it's not the easiest job, like you're pointing out, right? You need to have a team behind you. We are your team behind you. And I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'd resonate with that.
Great.
I'd then say, we appreciate you. As you said before, Cormac, we like it when you test the boundaries and you think outside the box. It does challenge us greatly. We might scratch our heads and end up frowning, but it takes us in new directions, and you're responding to what consumer needs are. So it's the collaboration that has to happen between suppliers or manufacturers such as Scott and ourselves, or Bromic and StruXure, with the A&D community. I think all manufacturers in the building industry should cherish, because it's what drives innovation, and ultimately that leads to a better future for the consumer and for us in general, because it drives us, whether it be on that sustainability piece, whether it be on efficiency, whether it be on application. And we love to listen. So I've enjoyed every moment.
Don't forget that aesthetics part too, because
Yeah.
of all of the things, we like to glom onto that too, because when we're looking for those solutions, we're looking for all of the things that you're talking about, the cradle to cradle type aspect of sustainability and all of the integrations. But at the end of the day, when we can say that we can deliver all of that in a well-designed package, is something that not only it's something that we always come back to when we say we're going to keep coming back to these guys because we know what they can deliver, but also it's something that we can have an investment in, that we can invest our clients in, so that they feel comfortable with these decisions.
Agreed. That's the strive for us.
People do appreciate good design. Right. And they may not know why they appreciate good design. They may not have that sensibility, but it still holds true. Like it's one of those things. And especially when like, to reinforce what Cormac just said, when it's a yes, and we get to add this integration into our design, and it looks good, or and it's invisible and you don't notice it, but it's amazing. Like that to me is really where like the magic happens with design.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Echo that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks guys. It's been a great conversation. We'll have links to everything in our show notes for this episode. Everybody head over to archispeakpodcast.com and check out the links to Bromic Heating and StruXure in the show notes. And that's it for this one.
Thank you all.
Thanks everybody.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.